Hey guys, it's Ryan here with Hobbies Man once again, and today is our first episode of the Sword and Sorcery Book Club, our new spin-off channel where we're going to be focusing on Conan the Barbarian, Robert E. Howard, and other sword and sorcery, sword and adventure, sword and planet, sword and sandal type stories and creators, right? So today is the second episode of the, well, technically I guess it'd be the first episode of the Road to the Blackstone event, right? So Blackstone, or the Battle of the Blackstone, is the culmination event of the first year of publication for the Conan license. Now that Heroic Signatures has had it, Jim Zub, Rob Del Toro, Doug Braithwaite, and a bunch of other people worked together to create this awesome 12-issue story arc that happened across time and space for Conan the Barbarian. And it recently ended with chapter 12, with issue 12. And issue 13 of the main story of the main series will continue on to do something different. It's going to be a celebration arc for like 4 issues for the celebration of the 90th anniversary of the Frost Giant's daughter. And that's going to be the mainline story. However, there's going to be this special crossover event thing that's happening called the Battle to the Blackstone, right? And so because we're at least 6 weeks out from that, I wanted to take that time to start learning stuff about the characters that are going to be involved, right? So I did a video explaining that yesterday. It'll be up above in the iCard. I also did a video recently on my main channel for reviewing the first year of publication from Heroic Signatures, right? I talked about it. I did a short review or recap of the series so far, and I want to do that as a separate specific video here for you guys today. Now, this is also a chance for me to have a bit of a correction to some stuff that I said in that previous video because of bad reading retention, or yeah, I guess that would be the word, because it wasn't reading comprehension issues, it was reading retention, right? So I couldn't remember exactly what I was reading, right? So last night before, I tried to record this a few times, realized I didn't really remember exactly how everything was going, so I decided to skim through all of these books again and try to figure out what was going on properly, and finally got myself a good outline of stuff to talk about today, right? So we're going to be covering the first comic book, which was the Free Comic Book Day issue from 2023. Then we're going to cover the first 12 issues of the series, and then we're going to cover Free Comic Book Day issue 0 2024 to get us all caught up to what we're going to do for the Battle of the Blackstone, right? So Free Comic Book Day 0 was the start of the run from Heroic Signatures. It opens up with the Nemedian Chronicle in a nice big full page, and I will be showing you guys bits and pieces of what I'm mentioning somewhere on the screen, maybe over my face, I'm not really sure. And it also gives us this like excerpt of or from the Road of Kings, which is another Nemedian Chronicle type thing that tells us about Conan, right? And then we are positioned into the Battle of Venarium. Conan's first proper battle is bloody, gory, horrific, and crazy. It's Sumerians versus Aquilonians. It's slaves versus oppressors. It's everything that you can kind of think a battle could be. And it's horrible, and it ends pretty badly, but Conan ends up victorious in the end. He stands tall, and he finds himself a special Pictish sword that he knows about or has some inkling about for whatever reason, right? He is reminded of the lands beyond Samaria that his grandfather used to tell him about because of the sword, and now that he has this special sword in hand, he decides to leave Samaria, right? And so as he leaves Samaria, we go through these really amazing panels done by Rob Del Toro, showing us different elements and moments and stories from Robert E. Howard's library, right? So we get to see the Tower of the Elephant, we get to see Bellet, I think. We get to see a few different things going on and happening, and it was really, really awesome. This was a great start to the series. There's a lot of action, and it really helped us set up to where Conan was going, right? Arc 1, which is the first 4 issues, establishes us in northern Aquilonia in a small tavern where Conan is chilling, and by that I mean he's killing people, because that's kind of what he does, he's fighting and killing. And then the commotion at the tavern at the end ends when this man randomly shows up. He bolts open the door and he yells, something evil comes, be wary, careful, all of this type of stuff. And well, the men decide to go out and investigate. Along this kind of trek up into the mountains, I guess, to see what was going on, they encounter this Pictish woman on a horse who's telling them that something draws near, that death is coming. And because she's Pictish, no one really gives a crap about what she's saying. Her warning goes unheard, and then suddenly a wave of death shows up, right? And this wave of death is actually zombified people. They're not zombies in the modern sci-fi sense. They're zombies in a more kind of old school, dead, risen again, and powerful and fast kind of vibe, right? And so they meet on with these adventurers, these people, and completely decimate them. Conan and Brizza, the Pictish woman, are the only ones that survive, and they join forces in some way, and they decide to follow this wave of death back to its origin after Brizza tells him that they have already invaded Samaria, which is the next stop after this part of Aquilonia, right? So they witness this dark ritual which brings these people into this zombification process. They see this giant black spire out of nowhere shoot up and become part of the landscape now, and then they break into the big black spire that just randomly showed up, and within it they find some of Conan's countrymen, some of the same people from his village, some of the people that he fought with before in the Venarium battle, and they join forces. He gets them out of there, and then he and Brizza decide that it's too dangerous for everyone to continue. Many of these Cimmerians are weak and malnourished, and they're not going to be good for a fight, so they split up. Some of the Cimmerians go along with Conan deeper into the spire, and the rest of them go out of the spire with Brizza as protection, and they try to find a way to escape to a better place, right? So this is kind of the end of Brizza's storyline for now. We continue on deeper into the spire. Conan and his men see this ritual to bring back Tools of Doom happening. It doesn't seem to work, or something happens, that kind of starts this process, but doesn't really get to being what it is supposed to be. And then this horde of undead and lizard type people come up. They battle. Conan is thrown into this water inside the spire, which is where these spirits are kind of kept. And when he's there, he basically goes into a trance. He sees a vision, and he meets Brule, who happens to be the ancestor of Brizza, and tells him the origin of the Black Stone, or kind of the first time that Brule interacts with it. It's actually what it is. It's not actually the origin. We get that later. Brule tells Conan about this first time that they encountered the Black Stone and how they managed to destroy it, which is Brule attacks it, and alongside that, a god brings down thunder and kind of brings power to the sword. Actually, it's Brule's spear, and he knocks down this Black Stone, right? And it turns out that sword happens, or that blade that was on that spear happens to be the sword that Conan currently has in his hands, right? And so Conan uses this to battle this octopus, kraken thing that's down there in the water, and then he gets expelled from the water violently. Conan wins this battle, and they thwart these dark ones that were trying to bring back Tools of Doom. And the spire falls, but the stone is still in play. Brizza is presumed dead at this point because she left the weak Cimmerians when she found out a place to put them, or found a good place to keep them safe for now. She tried to go back into the spire and was never seen again, and so she's presumed dead, right? And that's kind of where this arc ends. Conan moves on to more adventures later on. Arc 2 starts after Conan has interacted with Belet. It's the end of, or a bit after the end of the Queen of the Black Coast story, right? So we get to see Conan dealing with these dark memories of his lost love, right? He gets to we get to see through Doug Braithwaite, through this story, a lot of flashbacks to the Queen of the Black Coast, right? We get to see Conan meeting Belit. We get to see them interacting. We get to see Belit's stance. And we get to see how she dies, right? And so all of that stuff is important. And Conan is thinking about all this stuff as he is in this tavern, again, in this place called Shadizar. And he's with this woman called Chaundra, and she's called the Shat, or, the cat. So she's a cat burglar, right? So, and it turns out that she and Conan, alongside a bunch of other people, are this thieves guild called the Glory Hounds. And they have recently been hired by a priest, I guess. I'm not really sure what the position of this guy is. He seems to be some sort of clergyman, right? But I'm not exactly sure if he's also like a city official or, what it is. I'm kind of unsure about what this guy's position is, but he's some sort of like priest type character, right? And they are tasked by this guy to steal this beautifully wrought black stone that is deep within the temple of Bel, right? And Bel is this dark thief god, basically, something like that. And so they find a way to get in. They stow themselves into this cart full of bodies that is used by the Bel priest in order to do dark rituals for their god, and they manage to get inside the temple. Once they're out of the cart of corpses, they enter and they assassinate some of the men there so that they have more time to kind of move through the temple, right? Then they move through the temple, they extort and threaten anyone that they can to get information, and eventually they find the Blackstone, right? So at this point, Conan has this face of horror of knowing what this is, right? Because this is the second or maybe third time that he has experienced a connection with this Blackstone, and he knows that it's trouble, right? And so they steal it. They manage to give it to the priest, and Conan warns him, you should not touch this. This is a dangerous thing. It's going to start doing bad things, right? Of course, the clergyman guy doesn't listen. And later, after Conan has been with Chandra, after their successful, their successful theft, I guess, or their successful heist, it turns out that Chandra somehow ends up kind of coming under the control of spirits or turning into a zombie. It's kind of hard to say what exactly it is, but it seems more like she's possessed by spirits, right? And she tries to kill Conan. Conan doesn't want to because of what happened with Belit, but at this point he has to kill Chandra, and so he's quite sad about it. He's upset, and then he vows revenge on this Blackstone and the people that brought it out to play again. And so he goes down through the city to try to find the Thieves Guild to make sure that the stone is not given to the guy, right? And to hopefully destroy it. However, at this point, he finds that the guild has been destroyed. The spirits abound everywhere, and they take him over. They force Conan to trek through the city trying to find the Pictish sword, because at this point he had gotten rid of it. And he eventually finds it. As this is happening, he encounters another vision similar to the one with Brule, but this time Belit shows up. And basically it's a way for him to kind of have a figure to interact with, to fight, and also to kind of try to overcome, right? And so this was quite a pretty cool moment for me, right? And so there's a moment of clarity, and then he loses control again, and the Pictish sword goes through his chest, and somehow he is thrown back in time. And that's kind of that, right? So at that point, we start Arc 3, which is issues 9 through 12. And here we open with Brule destroying the statue from before. At the end of Arc 1, we don't really get to see what happens when he destroys it, but at this point we do. And it turns out that Conan pops out of this stone, and it's kind of crazy. It looks really cool. I love the scene here of the stone cracking and Conan coming out of it ready to fight. And it's so awesome, right? So I really, really like that. But it turns out that Conan is weak emotionally, spiritually, physically at this point, and so the Picts manage to capture him at this point, right? Later on, they're all chilling together at camp on their way back to Valusia. Conan is tied to a tree, and it's late at night. The guard isn't really doing what he's supposed to do, and a mountain lion, a lion without a mane, right, like a type of puma type cat, right, shows up and tries to attack Conan, who's the easiest target. And of course, Conan manages to free himself thanks to the claws of this animal, and also fight it to the death. And at this point, Brule is awake and sees what's going on. And as Conan is battling this mountain lion, he sees the visage of a real lion, a maned lion, right? Behind Conan as he's taking down this animal. And he kind of realizes that this man is like Cole, that this guy is special, that there is something about this man that is meaningful. And so they free him. He becomes part of their tribe or their group or whatever. Tribe is the wrong word. He is accepted into the group, and they move on to Volusia, right? Once they get to Volusia, I said that two different ways, sorry, Volusia, Conan actually ends up meeting Yakosha. And this is where I have to do a correction, because in my last video that I talked about this stuff, I said that I was unsure about the relationship between Yakosha and Conan here, and that it was like, I didn't like that it seemed like Conan didn't know who Yakosha was at this point, even though he should have clearly known who it was, right? Because of the kind of understood timeline of events is that Conan is a thief before he's a pirate, and so he would have met Yakosha, who he meets as a young thief, before he would have met Belet, right? And it turns out that that is actually true. That is the case. You know, he does know Yakosha. He does mention, you know, I killed you. Why are you still alive? And all of this stuff. But I was just misremembering stuff quite badly. And so for the last month and a half, basically, I had been thinking that Yakosha didn't know, or Conan didn't know Yakosha, even though he did, and that's what I was talking about. That is kind of the correction here. I looked back into my initial review of this issue, where this happens. I think it's issue 8. And yeah, when I did the original review, I did say the correct thing, right? Conan and Yakosha meet and interact, and you know, they know that they know each other. They know that Conan kills him, and Yakosha tells them, you're out of place and out of time, right? You're not where you're supposed to be or when. And so I think it was just somewhere along the line within the last couple of months, my brain just kind of assumed something that was incorrect, and I just kept going with that, right? But Yakosha does know who Conan is. He knows that Conan kills him. Conan knows who Yakosha is. Conan knows that he kills him and is surprised to see him still alive. Yakosha tells him a bit about what's going on, helps him understand, you know, that he is somewhere that he's not supposed to be, and then Conan gets sent to see Cole. He has an audience with the king, and at this point, King Cole is going through a very weird moment. He's kind of not really all there. He's going through a weird kind of depressive type mood, right? And so he sees Conan, and he immediately starts to battle him. And it's really fun because they're kind of evenly matched. You know, sometimes Conan has the upper hand, and then Cole has it, and then Conan has it, and then Cole has it. And when Conan has the upper hand, and it looks like they're, you know, stuff is gonna go badly here, and I think actually Cole has the upper hand at that point. I can't remember. There's like a switch that happens a few times, and then Brule decides to step in. He hurts Cole instead of Conan, so I think Conan was about to give like a killing blow. And Cole was about to give Conan a killing blow, and Brule decides to stop this by hitting Cole on the head. And this is exactly when other advisors show up and see that, you know, Brule is assaulting his king, and so Brule and Conan get put in jail instead of immediately being not assassinated, instead of immediately being executed, right? And so they get put in jail to wait for their execution, and eventually Cole comes back to his senses. He realizes that he needs Brule and Conan. We get to see this really cool dream that he had, this kind of prophetic dream that he had, and it requires him to go back to his homeland, to go back to the place of his birth, and undergo this perilous journey to find something, right? And so he needs the strongest man that he can. He needs a guy that he can trust, and he needs this Conan guy that he just met that happens to be powerful, and, you know, can go toe-to-toe with Cole, right? So he goes to them, he apologizes, he gets them out, and then they prepare to go on this journey, right? So Conan, Cole, Brule, and a bunch of Red Slayers get together. They go on a boat, and they sail back to the Atlantean shores. And on their trip there, they actually end up encountering these lizardmen / blackstonified zombie men pirates. They battle, they win, but they suffer big losses, and their boat is damaged, right? And so they lose a lot of their supplies and stuff, right? So eventually they manage to make it onto shore, and then they continue to through the jungle. They trek to Cole's homeland and to the place of his birth, and then they find this giant black pit. And Cole wastes no time. He decides to descend down into the pit, and this is where problems kind of really start, right? So they're going down to the pit, and Conan sees things that remind him of other things, right? He sees these big colossal black armors that remind him of the black giants. What are they called? The people of the Black Circle, I guess it was. I can't remember. Or the Devil in Iron, right? He kind of remembers these kinds of people. Then they get attacked by these 8 men after Conan recognizes this Yakosha symbol, right, on the walls. And they manage to survive, but there's only 4 men of the whole expedition left. The woman that Conan was with also dies, and at this point he doesn't really know anything. And I actually asked Jim about this. He's like, I asked him, why does the Red Slayer woman not have a name? And he basically told me because from Conan's perspective, he doesn't care anymore. He just sees a woman and he has this kind of depressive mood. He's with her, he finds some connection with this woman, but her name is not important to him because of the miasma or the kind of just depressive mood that he's in, right? And so this was supposed to show that, and I think it was done quite effectively. I was just when I initially read this, I was like, why does she get a name? She seems to be important, right? But she wasn't, so it happens. And Conan is impressed by Cole's respect for his men and the fact that he takes the time to pray to them and thank them for their service after their death and all of this stuff, right? And so it's Cole, it's Conan, and Brol, and one other Red Slayer, and they descend deeper into the into this pit. And I think the Red Slayer dies at some point, and then they find a sarcophagus. Cole immediately opens it, pulls out a sword from it, and he has this really triumphant King Arthur moment as he holds the sword aloft. And then Tulsa Doom shows up. He pulls himself out of the sarcophagus. He looms over Cole. He grabs the sword, and then before Cole even notices, he thrusts it through his chest, right? And so Cole is now injured. He doesn't die, but he is heavily injured. And now the battle commences. Conan versus Tulsa Doom. And Tulsa Doom can't really see Conan at this point because of the stuff that Yakosha told Conan. You're not from here. Humans and mortals can see you because you think they should, but greater, things that exist beyond that realm are kind of not able to pinpoint your location, but they sense that there is a void around them that is not supposed to be there, right? So they can see that he is there, they cannot see him, right? Which is pretty cool. And so the battle continues. They're pretty evenly matched, even though Tulsa Doom can't really see Conan. We get to see Tulsa Doom's background, and we get to see that he used to be this guy called Kulathan or something like that. It's supposed to sound like Cthulhu, right? And then this meteorite came down, spread some stuff on the ground when it exploded, when it crashed into the earth. And one of these things that was there was this black stone. And as Tulsa Doom touched it, or as Kulathan touched it, I think that was his name, he was given knowledge from the stars, right? And he used this to become a necromancer. He became Tulsa Doom. He put himself into a sarcophagus to escape death, and he finally managed to do so. But while he was doing this, he was getting visions of this line of kings that was going to destroy him. And so he tried to eradicate them, and he was currently working on Cole. But Cole somehow managed to survive all of this time. He was not dying thanks to Tulsa Doom's plans. And so finally, in this moment of weakness that Cole had, Tulsa Doom used it to bring them here at this point. And so now he is managing to kill Cole. However, he doesn't know that Conan is also of Cole's lineage, and so the battle continues right between these two people. And so Conan and Tulsa Doom continue to fight. Conan grabs the Atlantean sword, and as he does this, actually reveals himself to Tulsa Doom, because now their paths are linked in some way, more so than they were before. And now he can see him. They continue to fight. Brule steps in to help, and then eventually Conan manages to grab the sword and cut Tulsa Doom's head off. And so they win the battle, the pit destroys itself, and they barely manage to make it out alive. At this point, Conan gets sent back in time to the future, or sent forward in time to the future, back to his place, and Cole and Brule manage to escape, and eventually will make it home to Valusia, right? And so that is more or less where this story ends. Conan returns to his body. He comes back to his senses, and he actually experiences a really clear moment of clarity here. His depression from the loss of Belit has eased a lot. He has gained some mental fortitude, and he has gotten to experience some meaningful stuff, right? And so at this point, he grabs the sword and he moves on to the next great adventure. And at this point, I guess this is where we get to see him right before he moves on to the Battle of the Blackstone, right? So pretty cool stuff. I really liked it. There was also this kind of like post-credit scene at the end where we get to see that the Atlantean sword is grabbed by a fisherman. And this fisherman, I think, is Pictish. And I initially, when we first read this, I said, I don't know if this is in the past or the present. It doesn't really matter because it can connect to either. But based on what happens in the next issue, in the Free Comic Book Day issue 2024, I'm guessing that this Atlantean sword that they grab is actually in the present, right? Like the Pictish man that grabs the sword is in the present, or Conan's current timeline. And that's kind of tie in later, but I'm not really sure. And so this is the end. The next story in the main storyline will continue with that kind of like narrative weaving. So we're actually going to go back in time to see a younger Conan for issue 13, which is cool. And then the final thing that we have to review here is Free Comic Book Day issue 0 for 2024. This one is pretty simple. Basically, Conan is fighting these Pics, these kind of de-evolved people, right? Because the Pics were much more savage than like your average like Valusian back in Cole's time, but over time they actually devolved more into more of a more primitive civilization, right? Something that you would see in like Apocalyptico, or what we kind of think people thought of Native Americans back in the day. And a lot of people have said that the Pics are Robert E. Howard's version of Native Americans within the confines of his more Euro-Asian kind of societies that he created, right? So we get to see Conan fighting these Pics who are attacking this fort in Aquilonia. Then we get to see this large berserker guy, and he's wearing a Blackstone pendant. Conan beats this guy and then sees the pendant, and then this triggers a bunch of memories of Conan. He gets to see all of the things that happened in the previous 12 issues. And then we get to see that across time and space, other Robert E. Howard heroes are also seeing this Blackstone symbol, are also interacting with this thing. And we get to see Solomon Kane unearthing a sarcophagus and seeing a man with this thing carved into his chest. We get to see Dark Agnes finding this like Magna Carta looking thing that has the symbol on in the center. We get to see El Borak find it. I can't remember where, but he finds it as well. And then we get to see that John Kirwan is studying a script that has the symbol on it, right? And so we get to see that all of these different characters are also experiencing this. And the issue ends with Brizza, who we thought dead, actually not being dead, but seemingly flung into the future, further into time, right? Into like nearly the modern age. She ends up in the 1910s or so, right? When James Allison is alive, she goes to his home and she finds it ransacked. We get to see that his prosthetic leg is on the floor and he is nowhere to be found. And that's where it ends. That is what's going to lead into the Battle of the Blackstone, right? So there you go. That's my recap review so far. It's been amazing. I really loved everything. Now that I've given this a thorough kind of look and prepared this, I feel much more clear about all of the things that I misrepresented last time, and hopefully that won't happen again. I'll take better notes. But that's it for this first video. The next video next week on Sunday will be the review or the explanation or the discussion about the first Solomon Kane story, Red Shadows, which is, as far as I understand it, the first time that Solomon Kane was published. and it'll be like our introduction to Solomon Kane, right? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in the next one, and thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later.